Have you ever looked at a watercolor painting and thought to yourself, wow, I wish I could do that? Yeah, me too. Hey everybody, it's Whitney with Girl Friday Crafts. Welcome to the Common Canvas playlist hosted by Jeannie's Palette. This week our theme is a spring painting challenge. And if you've watched any of my videos in this collab before, you know that I do not consider myself a paint artist. You also know that I am dabbling a bit in watercolor. And so we're going to play around with that a bit today. If you are a beginner in watercolor like me, then I hope that you take some value, take something away from this video, find some value in this video. Just some things that I've learned, but also the encouragement to just play around. That's the best way to learn. And definitely with watercolor, my experience has been you gotta do it, you gotta play with it, you gotta try this, that, and the other thing to really figure out what you like, what you don't like, and how to make the final product look the way you want. So we are going to talk quickly about the supplies that I have. I have a few paintbrushes. We'll probably pull out a few more. I have this bookmark pad, this watercolor bookmark pad that I got from Amazon. I will link to that down in the video. It's just these small pieces of watercolor paper, nice and bookmark size. I'll explain what I was doing with that in a minute. I have a couple of pencils. I use this to clean my brushes. And then I have a cup of clean water and a cup of dirty water. So what I was hoping I might be able to do was to sketch this little flower onto the watercolor paper. But as I suspected, this is way too thick for me to be able to do that. Now, if I had a light board that I could put under this, that would be possible. Oh, I also have my watercolors, but I don't. So we're just going to try to sketch it out by hand, which ought to be pretty entertaining because not only am I not a paint artist, I don't draw either. I'm learning, playing with Procreate. But this is just for experimentation purposes and does not have to be perfect. So we're just going to do a really quick outline of this flower. Okay, so that's not half bad. I'm not sure how well you all can see that. And we're going to do other things on this bookmark. So I'm going to keep this paper because we're going to use it as kind of a base. And our theme here is spring, so we're definitely going to stick with spring colors. And I'm going to use this. This is my Meeden, M-E-E-D-E-N, watercolor kit. Okay, so what we'll also probably do when we're done with this is do some line work. Once it dries, we'll take like a fine liner and define our flower a little bit better. Now, my experience with watercolors is that these brushes are the best kind, but I don't have any really small ones of that, so we're going to use my teeny tiny brushes the most. And the biggest thing to remember with watercolor is the more water, the more dilute your color. The less water, the less dilute your color. That sounds very logical, I know, but I know sometimes I get going and I kind of forget that, oh wait, I'm putting too much water in my brush. That is not how I wanted that color to look. So I just got a little bit of water on the brush. And we're just going to do our leaves. We'll add some darker colors and some lighter colors so that we add some shading and create some definition. And then the more you spread the color around, the thinner it gets. So we're gonna step up a little bit and try this one. Now the tip of this one is not quite as pointed, but it's a bigger brush, so it's gonna pick up more. It's gonna pick up more paint. So somehow when I recorded this second part of the video, it did not record any audio. So doing a little voiceover here, which I am not very good at. I don't like doing very much, but that's okay. It'll push us through. So after I finished the rose, I wanted to let it dry and I wanted to play around with some other ideas for experimenting with watercolor. And so all I started to do was just take rainbow colors. So I picked a purple, a blue, so on and so forth, and spread it across the watercolor paper in stripes, adding water, adding more water, adding less water, trying to create some variation and some gradient, just so I could play around and experiment a little bit with what happens when I do this. Now, unfortunately, I was sort of walking through that thought process as I recorded this part of the video, but this was just to play around and something that I would encourage you to do with some paper and your watercolor paints is, just make stripes or lines or circles or anything like that and mess around with your amount of water, amount of paint, bleeding the colors in together, that sort of thing. It actually turns out really cool at the end. I'm kind of happy with how it looked, even though I wasn't really trying to do anything polished or finished. But that is a great little option for playing around, a great little thing that you can do, little thing, quote unquote, that you can make if you're playing around with watercolor. So thanks for hanging out and watching this video. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. The full playlist link is in the video description. So be sure to check out everybody's finished projects and see all of the amazing paint artists that are part of this collaboration. And then be sure to come back and see us next time. Thanks, everybody.